So let's have a review of the Manday. So the very first thing you will do is populate this start page. So here we are on the start page, the client's name and the site name, which you would have gotten for your scope of works. The roster is 2 weeks on, 1 week off. So having a look at this scope of works, if I scroll all the way down to the bottom, this is page 3. You can see here the roster information is included. So everything you need for that start page is included in this scope of work. So we'll have another quick look at how that was filled in here. Roster hours per day 11, 500 rooms. So again, looking at the scope of works, there's your 500 rooms. Here we go, your weekly linen changes. This group has said 1, so let's have a quick look here. Scrolling down, all rooms shall be fully serviced once per week, clean towels and linen change. So that's where that information came from. Room cleans per week. This group here has said 2. I don't know if that's actually correct though. All rooms shall be fully serviced once per week, clean towels and linen, and 1/2 a clean on an alternative day of the week. So for argument's sake, with this group, this should probably really say 1.5. Weekly towel changes we just saw was 1. A number of minutes to clean a room is actually an assumption. So you may have come up with your own number here based on your own experience, and that's fine. So once you've completed that start page, this information then populates all of this, these cells up the top here, and this helps all of the calculations occur. But we're going to go right down here to capital expenditure. So this is one that a group has actually completed. So they said based on the scope of works, they would need 1 garbage truck, 2-ton tipper. They'd want 1 Hilux dual cab, etc. So if you go down, you can see the sorts of things that this particular group has put in. Golf carts, cleaners carts with a cabinet. They thought for the size and scope of the project, they might need 2. And down we go. So you'll fill this in according to your best knowledge and your experience with site, or maybe your ops manager has recommended some things there. So that's your CapEx page. When it comes to labour hours, here you'll have all the different roles, and for example the project managers here, their annual pay is $55,000 a year. You'll all probably laugh at that. That's just a fictitious figure, obviously. And then across here, this particular team has said, okay, in here, if we had from 0 to 50 people being accommodated on site, they wouldn't bother with a project manager, they just have a chef manager. I don't know, you might disagree. The next increment is 51 to 100. They said, yep, we definitely want a project manager there then, and all the way through to if there was up to 500 people on site. This team's worked through. They've decided they would only need an assistant manager here if there was 451 to 500 people being accommodated on site. So you can see this group has just put in things the way they think they should be, and that's fine. So what that has ended up telling us down the bottom is the amount of people on site. So here, if there was 0 to 50 people accommodated, they need 5.5 people on site. If we go up here to column L, which is 351 to 400 people, they've decided they need 24 people on site. At K, which is 301 to 350 people, they will need 21 people on site. Okay, so that's how that they're the key figures to have a look at there. If we have a look at other direct costs, again, this is a little bit of trial and error. So you're entering data in and just seeing how it might spread out. So here this group has figured per day would be something like $600 worth of uniforms, 10 cents worth of printing, which means if there was 500 people on site, again, it's only going to be $14.45 in terms of a monthly expense. So this sort of trial and error is what you use to fill in all of these bits and pieces, and hopefully based on the experience of the ops manager or someone in your team. So then we go up to the Manday rate. So here we have the figures of 250 of meat consumed, 1 of fish, and down the line we go. So what this ends up being is per food per day would end up to be $16.60 if there was 0 to 50 people accommodated on site. Now it's important to know that if your food budget is around $16.60, that means you should be in line here with the midpoint. So the closer you are to budget, the closer you should be to the midpoint. I hope that makes sense for you. So if we have a look here at column I, if we were to accommodate 301 to 350 people, our direct expenses would be $660. So hopefully that will make sense for you. Wages and salaries are down here showing at 1%, and if we go all the way down the bottom, we see here the site Manday costs. So the total site Manday cost, if there was 301 to 350 people being accommodated, would be $34.89. So that's what it would cost per Manday. Now, where we look at the comparisons, if I come all the way down here to the schedule of rates, this should all end up being reflected in this figure here on this last page. So when it comes to comparing the teams and how they went with their Manday, this is the page that we're comparing. So we're looking basically to see who looks more competitive. But it's not actually enough to look at this Manday rate. If we were really tendering a project, our client wouldn't be looking per Manday. They'd probably be looking at what's this contract going to cost us in total, or how much per year are we going to spend on this contract. So if we take a figure here, let's say it's item 12, line 12, 301 to 350. We know the midpoint that we try and break even on is 325, and we do a little bit of a sum. So if we take this rate, 330, whoop, let's see, it's not going to let me do that. Hang on, I'm just going to open up another file to demonstrate this for you. Okay, so here we are. If we're using 12, $39.02. That's the Manday rate, times that by 365 days in a year. And we're going to get a total there. So I'll just use my calculator and cheat. You'll forgive me for that. So we're going $39.02 times 365 days in a year. So that's going to equal 14,242. 14,242. Let's just round it off at that. So that's per year, but we also need to times it by the number of people being accommodated. And we're going to take the midpoint. So that's going to be 325. So just to repeat, we're just going to this line item 12. If 301 to 350 people were being accommodated, our Manday rate is $39 per Manday. We've now times that to bring it out to an annual rate, and now we're timesing it to bring it out to how many people are being accommodated. So the cost of that contract for the year is now $462,8747. So obviously this is now a much greater expense and much easier for a client to see what this contract is actually going to cost them. But to bring this out more clearly, let's pretend that this Manday rate was a little bit different. Let's pretend there's another organisation and their Manday rate ended up to be, let's say, just $42. Okay, so just $42. Times that by 365, times that by 325. Now we have $4,982,250. Now that's a massive difference. Just for a few dollars in this Manday rate, this second bidder is now, $300,000 more. So then your client is going to start asking, well, what's the difference? Why? What are you providing that they're not providing? Or they're going to start to question things. So part of building this Manday rate is also to understand when you're tendering for a project, what your client may look at. So that's a brief overview of the Manday and I guess what it all means. Hopefully you got there in the end quite comfortably. A lot of filling in these forms is just through experience, but hopefully you'll understand a little bit more about what commercial goes through in trying to build a contract, and I guess why it's so important to control those labour and those food costs, because that's really what this Manday rate comes down to, is controlling labour and controlling food costs. So anyway, have a great rest of training, and hopefully I'll see you at another session. Bye.